Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Travel, life, and fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
You're listening to the Life Adventurous Podcast, presented by SayWHA Radio.
Welcome to another episode of the Life Adventurous Podcast. I'm Jenny, your host, and I am bringing this episode to you from the great state of Texas. Oh my gosh, we are so excited that we're here in Texas. I think one of the things I'm most excited about is I haven't been here in a while. I feel like it's probably been like a year and a half minimum, maybe 2 years. I'd have to think back. But one of my most favorite things about Texas is the food. Oh my God, the food here is so good. We're catching up on all the foodie things, the barbecue and the Shipley's donuts and Mexican food and torchies and oh my God. So there's so many things here. And so I'm here in Texas and I've got a great view, which is going to bring great inspiration, especially for today's episode, which today's episode is the whale spirit. And the whale spirit says to trust the great mystery. Now, if this is your first time tuning into one of these episodes that we have here, so the theme of this podcast series is spirit animals, and it's inspired from the oracle card deck called Spirit Animal Oracle Card by Colette Baron Reed. And so therefore, I'm using those cards. I pulled them a while back, and I'm using those cards as inspiration to be able to bring some inspiration, excitement, I guess some light, some love, some energy, whatever it is into your life. And I am so excited. I've been waiting, like so patiently, so excited to actually record this episode. And this episode with whale spirit, you probably don't know, but whales are one of my absolutely favorite animals in the world. I love whales. And even more importantly, I love orca whales specifically, but all of them are wonderful. I mean, the big blue whale and the narwhals, and I mean, there's so many amazing ones. But the thing with a whale spirit is if you think about whales, right? Like they're super intelligent. They're very, very, very smart. But also the different species of whales. And I mean, if you think about the great blue whale, and they're just so massive. And it's almost like they see all the ocean and they see everything. And they've been on this earth for so very long. And there's something about an animal that just kind of is like the master of the ocean. And nothing's really going to eat a blue whale. Like it's massive, right? It eats everything else. Or like orca whales or like the apex. I love this card because it's about, I don't know if you think about the ocean and how deep the ocean is. And some spots we haven't even really found the bottom. In some spots because not many people can go because the pressure is so incredibly high. And we can send machines down and different rovers and stuff. But I mean, it's so dark at the bottom of the ocean in some spots. And I don't know. I mean, the whales don't live all the way at the bottom, but they still are in there in the depths. So I want to actually share a cool story that happened for whales. So when I had my corporate job, and if you've been listening along and you follow me here in other formats or, depending on how you've come into my world, you've probably heard or maybe heard that I have quit my corporate job. And I've actually quit it twice, but that's a story for another podcast episode. But I left my corporate job. So I had worked at a dental laboratory for about 10 years. And I loved it. I mean, I loved it in so many ways. I learned so much. I was in sales and I had a territory in Florida. And then I had quit my job the first time. And then I came back. They asked me to come back and I moved over to Texas, which kind of started my love for Texas. And I continued to work and I worked national accounts and traveled all over the country, the United States, and got to see so many amazing things, so many phenomenal experiences and had a blast. The thing is that unfortunately that company was probably always toxic, but I really came to understand and realize that and identify that towards the end of my career there. And I was just really, really wanting to find a role that would pay me my worth and find a role that I loved and find a role with cool coworkers and something innovative and something entrepreneurial. And I really wanted something. And one of my clients at the time, the name of the company was Dental Whale. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I want to go work for them. And actually what's interesting is their name wasn't that prior. they had a couple acquisitions and they decided to call their company Dental Whale because, as I mentioned, blue whales, take over the whole ocean and they're big and, they kind of dominate the sea, right? They're the masters of the sea. And with the company model, like the vision was the whales, I don't know, they just want to dominate the industry, but in a way that served lots of dentists and lots of people in the industry with multiple different services and channels, etc. So when I was talking to them about coming on board, I was absolutely thrilled, super excited. I couldn't wait to go on board. And I was like geeking out that their name was Dental Whale. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get shirts that have whales on them. This is going to be awesome. Like, this is my dream spot. And during the interview process, I actually had multiple whales pop up in my life as confirmation. We were at Trader Joe's, just checking out there and at the little checkout area. That area always rotates. There's always something different there. And in this moment, there was a card that said, Whale of a Graduate. And it was like a graduation card that had a whale on it. And I was like, look at that. There's a sign. So that was sign number 1. Sign number 2 was at the company that I was at, the executive assistant decided to send out birthdays for April or May or whatever month it was. And she sent out this like corny, like clip art calendar with coworkers' birthdays on it. And this was not something they regularly did. Like, they did not do this on the regular month to month. I guess she got excited and decided to share birthdays or whatever. Maybe it's the universe delivering me another, point of confirmation. But that little whale art was a whale. And or the little clip art was a whale. And I was like, oh my God, there's another confirmation. And then the third confirmation was I was in Tennessee for business, but also for softball. And a softball friend that I was staying with, I went to her house and we're sitting there and, we're kind of talking a little bit corporate because we share some things about, our corporate journey. And we get to her house and I'm like, hey, I got to work. I think it was like Thursday or Friday. I still had some work to do and some calls to get on. So she gave me her Wi-Fi passcode. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like perfect whale 857 or something like that. Like, whale was in the Wi-Fi passcode. And it was not the passcode that she made up. It was like the passcode that the internet company, how, I don't know if where you live, but the internet companies I've used on like the router, there's like a password that's assigned to that router and you can change it, but like there's one there. So it was kind of funny, I was like, oh my God, like that is her password. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to get this job. And shortly after I got the job and I got the offer and got everything I wanted and was super excited to go into that. So, and along the way too, I was pulling these cards and I continuously was pulling the whale card, the whale spirit card, as well as the dolphin card in this deck. And there's something magical about whales. And, if I relay it to what's going on today in our lives, in the world, whatever, like whatever it is. And I, in the book I was reading in the book that it kind of explains a little bit more about this card and the power of it. It's about trusting the great mystery. And there's a great mystery that you must accept without trying to intellectually understand it, which means this mystery is going to be experienced through your heart and through your intuition. And sometimes we try to understand everything through our mind, and we try to figure things out, and we try to understand things. I know as an A-type, as an analytical at times, sometimes I hate that side, but honestly, sometimes it serves me, right? Is, being analytical and looking into some of this stuff, like what's going on in the world. I want to know all the answers. I want to figure it out, and sometimes I read different headlines that trigger me and I'll be like, I can't believe that. Oh my God, things are going to be so weird 5 years from now. And I start spinning out and thinking about the future and how things could potentially be. I feel like when you're in that energy and you feel yourself tightening up and you feel yourself getting agitated and you feel yourself being triggered, then it's time to really evaluate and be like, okay, am I in my head? Like that anxiety, that worry, that fear, that doubt, like all of those things, like how is this showing up and how do I feel? Are my shoulders up at my ears? Or really, stepping into the whale spirit and saying, how can I really feel with my heart and my intuition? And if this is something you've never done before, it can be a little bit like, wait, what? I'm used to like thinking out problems and coming to solutions with my mind. But one of my favorite things is we actually got an email from a client today that we were working with and trying to figure out what the next steps were together. And she had said, you know what? I really just want to do a heart dump. Let me do a heart dump and, we'll take the next steps from there. And when we had talked to her on the phone, she has a lot going on in her life. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of moving pieces right now and a little bit of like hectic and chaoticness. And so definitely in those moments, you're kind of in your head, you're putting all the pieces together. You're like in go, go, go mode. You're like, all right, step 1, 2, 3, 4. And especially she has a military background. So she tapped into like that. All right, time to go. So then we received an email from her and we got the heart dump. And the powerful thing about the heart dump is that the heart dump for her provided so much clarity. It provided a high amount of clarity on what her next steps would be so that she could make a decision and feel really good about it and also just own it, right? And not be back and forth in her head. Oh, should I not? Okay. So that heart. Okay. So right now with everything going on, right? Like I said, if you're in that fear, if you're in that anxiety, that worry, whatever it is, the stress, whatever it is, and not even with what's going on, this could just be your life. Maybe your life is hectic and that's fine. But the more that you can get into your heart, the more that you can get into your intuition, the more that you can get into the flow and you can really step into the whale spirit. I'm just really intrigued by this trust the great mystery because there is a great mystery. And I'm out here looking and I see the sky. I see some trees. You probably hear an airplane out here, maybe some wind. Not sure what everything's picking up on the microphone for you, but you're seeing all these things. And if you go outside, you can see all this for yourself and you go out and you look up and you look at the sky. And if you just sit and detach from everything that is going on in your life and just detach and really just think about like the whales, like they don't really have anything to worry about. They just swim around in the ocean. How can you become that in your own life? How can you really just step outside all of the problems, stress, anxiety, frustration, like whatever it is that you have in your life? Because a lot of it's probably not as big as what your intellectual side makes it out to be. And the more that we can get into our hearts and our intuition, the more that we can be led, the more that we can be guided, the more that we can feel joy and bliss and freedom and all of that, like all of those things you crave, the more powerful, the more we can experience things from our heart and from our intuition, the more we can attract more like peace, calm, and more amazing experiences. Because think about this. You have a specific perception and mindset about the world, about your life, about your situation, your job, whatever. Okay. You have this mindset. You have this way of thinking, you have this philosophy, this personal philosophy that exists. And your philosophy, your mindset may feel very clear and right and on purpose and, just the right thing to do. But if you've never thought about this, or even if you have to realize, understand, and honor the fact that while your mindset may feel very right now, there's always a new philosophy that you could potentially adopt and bring into your life that can move you closer to your goals or move you away from your goals. And knowing that, I feel like it's very humbling because, we do the best we can in each moment. We think that we're making the right decisions. We think that we're right and we want to help other people be right. And we want to help other people see what we see. But sometimes we're not seeing the clearest. And I love a quote I heard recently from Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker. So he calls it triple darkness. You don't know what you don't know that you don't know. And so until we're ready to trust the great mystery and really embody that whale spirit, embody that, and really, I used to not like this word, but it's kind of like surrender, right? It's like surrender. It's just kind of relax. Or if you need more sports terms like softball, if baseball, if you've ever played or if you've ever watched anybody played, family member or whatever, like when you're swinging the bat and you're squeezing as hard as you can because you want to hit the shit out of the ball, you're probably going to miss, pop up, fly out, whatever. Versus if you just relax and breathe, you're going to hit the ball better, further, get a hit, etc. Like it's going to flow. And I feel like that's what the whale spirit is bringing into our lives right now. The inspiration that it's bringing to this moment, to your life that you can embody. So with that being said, I would love to hear what's going on in your life right now and love to hear what challenges you're facing and what's happening. What is that great mystery that you feel like is calling you? What is that? And even I'm trying to think of how to, how can this be really fun? What could we start with these conversations? And you could reach out to me on Instagram at The Life Adventurist. And I'd love to hear, does whale show up in your life any specific way? Do you have any connection as whale, maybe your spirit animal? Or what are your takeaways from this? What are your ahas? And I'd love for you to screenshot this episode on your phone and put it in your stories on Instagram. Tag me. Send me a private message. It'd be so fun to connect with you because right now as humans, we need connection. We need physical connection, and we also need emotional connection. And we also need mental connection and support. So I would love to connect with you, hear how this has impacted you, what's kind of churning in your brain as we go through. I just can't wait. Just get me in your stories or send me a message, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Life Adventurist podcast. If you love this episode, remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For course information, freebies, and to stay connected, join our Ohana, that means family, at www.2jhala.com/Ohana. Remember to stay positive, enjoy the journey, and most of all, keep those eyes open for all of the adventures surrounding you.